The goal is to hit $1 billion by the end of this calendar year. And this week, the state put in another $100 million into the account, making it reach $854 million. Joining us now is Comptroller Susana Mendoza, one of the lead politicians pushing for money in the rainy day fund. Comptroller, I want to start here. What is your message to the people of Illinois who may be seeing this and thinking, okay, what does that actually mean for them and for the state?
Well, I think it's the prudent thing to do, right? We ask people, any financial advisor would tell someone that in their own home, they should save for a rainy day and they should have at least 6 months worth of savings set aside in case of an emergency. And I don't think states should be any different. So what I'm trying to do as the controller here is really just beat that drum until we have at least a 5% savings of our overall budget, but our goal is going to be to get to 7.5%, which would be around $3.25 billion in today's budget numbers.
So right now, the current budget for the state gets you to $1 billion by the end of this calendar year, correct?
We have $853,565,501.28. But here's what I will tell you. Let's round it to $854 million. But we're going to get to $1 billion, hopefully within the next few months.
$1 billion is a lofty goal, but that's still a long way off from that number, that $3.4 billion that you were talking about. Does that mean that the state is going to have to, revisit and make more allocations in future budgets to reach this goal as well?
3.25, yes, 3.25 it would. So with our current appropriations, we're going to get to the $1 billion deposit within the year, this next fiscal year. And I, of course, want to do it as quickly as possible. There will also be, and they passed legislation, and the governor approved that would allocate an additional $45 million a year to the state's rainy day fund. So in perpetuity, right? $45 million more next year, no matter what happens. That has been committed by the legislature and the governor, and we will be depositing those dollars into the rainy day fund. But that still doesn't get us as quickly as I would like to get us, and I think as the credit rating agencies would like to see, to a point where we can really feel comfortable about our reserves. And as I think about a potential recession on the horizon, now more than ever, it's important to go above and beyond what we've even done so far, which is this commitment of $1 billion and 45 a year. We really should be codifying into law the legislation that I put forward that would require that anytime our state's accounts payable is under $3 billion, which today we are comfortably under that. We're at $2.2 billion. We're paying our bills on time. Things are going really well. Anytime we meet that marker of under $3 billion in accounts payable, there would be an automatic trigger of a 1% of the state's budget being deposited into both the state's rainy day fund and our state's pension stabilization fund. That will help us really start to chip away at the unfunded pension liabilities as well.
So obviously the rainy day fund is there for emergencies and it can be used for any number of reasons, but to have it be that empty, I think it was around $60,000 at the start of the pandemic, to have it be that low, what does that actually mean for when the state enters these disasters? I mean, how big of a difference would it make to go into the pandemic with $1 billion in the bank compared to 60,000?
Well, it would have made a gigantic difference during the budget impasse, right? Let's just be clear about that. Because when I came into the controller's office, there was about $60,000, a little less than that, in the state's rainy day fund, and it got as bad as a $16.7 billion backlog of unpaid bills, which, if this number seems so huge, it's hard to even wrap your head around it. But what it meant was this, that the average vendor who did business with the state of Illinois, the day that I became controller, was already waiting an average of 210 business days to get paid. That's about 9.5 months. And we had less than $60,000, which essentially is zero in the state's rainy day fund. Today, we have $1 billion. Let's say we had that $1 billion during that time, that would have allowed the controller to be able to chip away actually triage that budget impasse in a much more effective way. So it doesn't get you out of a $16.7 billion backlog crisis situation, but it goes from 210 days to being able to pay people a little bit quicker because you have some emergency funds to help people when it wasn't just a rainy day. It was like a monsoon of epic, horrific proportions. That's what I had to navigate our state through during those first 2 years of my term. So I am very passionate about needing to put money into a rainy day fund. And then let's fast forward to the pandemic. We talk about needing Federal Reserve, money from the Federal Municipal Liquidity Fund. We borrowed $2 billion. Thankfully, because of our smart fiscal management here, I was able to pay that loan back, not in the over a 3-year period, which was what we contracted with, but actually we paid it down in the very first year as soon as we had additional revenues coming in, not COVID money, but better than expected tax revenues coming in. And we were able to pay that loan 2 years early, saving taxpayers $82 million in interest. But my point is, we wouldn't have had to go to the market for a loan if we had our own reserves in place, and we would have been able to save 100% of that interest if we had enough money in our reserves. So having $3.25 billion in reserves allows us, me as the state controller, for example, to, in the case of an emergency, instead of going to the market to have to take out a loan to get through a dark time, I'd be able to utilize our own reserves, pay not a penny of interest on it, and just really have a mechanism that would allow me to have better cash flow to make sure that those organizations that are struggling through whatever the crisis may be, pandemic, recession, whatever it may be, that we have the resources in-house to be able to make sure that they're not waiting 6, 9, 10 months to get paid. That is the benefit of having this. It's about helping the businesses that need the help right now. And it's also about saving taxpayers millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, and would ultimately become interest payments that we're going to be paying for a long time if we have to go to the market to borrow. It's a really smart, prudent move. Like I said, we expect people to do it in our own homes, right? We should all be doing that in our own homes, but the state should be doing it even more so, because this isn't the government officials' money, it's the people's money, and we have to manage it very, very intelligently.
Comptroller Susana Mendoza, thank you so much for joining us this week. We'll be right back.